Stewart from stevestewart.me. This is a live webinar for people who want to go from being a blogger to a podcaster. But being a blogger is kind of like being the Marines. You never really are never a blogger unless you stop writing. But this is something that can help to educate you on what to do once you get all that stuff settled as far as what your name of the show is going to be. Get the artwork for your show together. You actually record some episodes. Then what? So that's what we're going to talk about shortly in a few minutes. I'm going to let people get in here. In fact, we're going to get online real quick and just make sure that people know that the video is started and they can join in the chat room. I've got two places you can ask questions or comment. There's the chat room on the Google Plus page. Right there, you can leave comments below the video, or you can go to my website, which is stevestewart.me, and on just about any of the pages, you're going to see this little green tab that says chat. And when it says chat, that is chat live. That is a way you can click on that tab, and you can actually send me private messages, and I'll check in when I hear the ding, and be able to answer any questions that you have. So I'll be starting in just a moment. And while we're waiting for people to sign on, just give you a little bit of a background. I've been podcasting since November of 2010, so just almost exactly 5 years from now. I started 5 years ago. It was interesting because I'd been wanting to do a podcast for a little while before I actually started. And I had all these fears about, do I have the right gear? And, am I going to be able to do this? And how do I put a podcast player on my website? Now that I've done it, I found that it's really, really super easy. And once you get past that initial hurdle of the launch, then it's just do a show. Just, record your content and make sure you got good content. You put it out there in good quality, and you communicate with your audience. Once you get it launched, the rest of it's fairly easy. Not saying that podcasting is easy, but don't fear the nuances that kept me from launching back in November 2010, and it's definitely gotten a lot easier since then. So we definitely want to. I definitely want to encourage you to consider, if you haven't started a podcast, let me help you out. I've been trying to get people from the financial blogger, genre to actually record their content and put it out as a show. A lot of them have jumped on just in the past year. To give you an example, the Financial Blogger Conference in 2012, podcasting was just kind of like a buzz. In 2013, there were more people who kind of knew what a podcast was. And I talked to so many people who said, "Oh, I've been thinking about doing a podcast." And that would be about the end of it. Last year, there was a lot more people saying, "I really need to start a podcast." This year, we went from, we'll start again. Back in like 2013, we had 3 live shows at the Financial Blogger Conference. This year, we had 21. So that's a multiple of, what is that, 7? I don't even know if I'm doing the math right, but it's amazing. We had a lot of people who got onto the podcasting bandwagon. They've got their shows out, they're launched, and they actually performed a bunch of them, live there on the podcast stage at the Financial Blogger Conference. So that was very cool. I was really encouraged to see that, and really happy about it as well. So we are live. Oh, look at that. That's great. It just redirected. Sorry, I'm looking at my technical stuff down here, and really happy to see that something actually worked right. So we should be seeing people popping in here. It's only 8:03 Central Time, and hey, it's 3 after the hour here in St. Louis, and the weather is a nice, warm, balmy day. Well, let me get in there and do one more thing. Tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to be talking about all the things that most people need to be aware of once they get their show recorded. Once you've got the file sitting there on your computer saying, "I've done the recording, it's in the format that I want," what am I going to do with it? We're going to talk about how to tag your files. I know Martin Dasko is asking about that. So labeling them for SEO and for discoverability. And I've got a tool that I use, and actually I've got a couple tools that you can use. One of them is free and one of them is premium, but it's only 15 bucks. Another, I'm going to talk about hosting your files with Libsyn. I think this is very important. It doesn't have to be Libsyn. It's just that's the one that I've used for 5 years. and I've just learned to appreciate everything that they have to offer. There's another one called Blueberry, and it's BLUBRRY.com. Don't know why they don't like the E's, but it's one of those Web 2.0 things, I guess. And there's a place that you can put your file so that that's where people go to pull the data when they want to listen or download your show, rather than jumping on your website and eating up all their bandwidth there. We'll also talk about getting your show listed on iTunes or on Stitcher or both. And then talk about maybe some editing courses, maybe talk about some membership courses. Depending on the time, we'll see how far we can get in this discussion. But we are live, and I'm just waiting for more people to join in so they don't miss any of this good stuff. And I also want to make a change to the website. Yeah, live website. Come on, there we go. Live website website maintenance. Isn't that wonderful? All right, so we'll get started. My name's Steve Stewart. I was the host of the Money Plan SOS podcast. I've since retired that one. I'm about to release my new show, which is called No Debt, No Credit, No Problems. It's going to be coming out here in the next couple of weeks of November 2015. I'm actually going to be on a podcasting network, which is a discussion for a whole nother day. But there's a lot of great reasons for why I'm doing that. I'm really excited about the show. It's not much different from Money Plan SOS, but I've now, opened up the door to more discussions, topics, and I think that the content is going to be even better. And when you're talking about a podcast, that's what's most important. To keep your audience engaged, you want to give them some content. The content could be storytelling, which is very, very powerful. It could be educational. It could be entertainment based. But my show is definitely going to be more on the educational side, giving people that information that they can use to improve their personal finances. If you're a personal finance blogger, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. People come to your website to read your content, to learn more. And maybe they've grown to know, like, and trust you. Well, with podcasting, that is taken to a completely different level, because the intimacy that you get by being in somebody's ears, it's very, very powerful. And I don't even know how to explain it any better than that. People just it's just a much more intimate relationship that you can have with your audience. And once they get to know, like, and trust you, obviously, you're able to either get them to join in your community, sign on for, a course, you might sell them something. There's all those wonderful benefits. So I've been podcasting for 5 years. I know what it's like to launch a show and not really know what you're doing. So I don't want to get into the whole content creation, editing, recording. We're not going to get into that. What I would like to talk about is more of those things where, all right, I know I need a show. I've got my artwork. I've got my title. I've got my recording. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 to 10 episodes you've already got recorded. Who knows? What's next? Well, here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about labeling your files for SEO and discoverability. We're going to talk about media hosting. We're going to talk about how to get your show listed on iTunes and Stitcher Radio, the top 2 places most people find podcasts today. Google Play Music will be coming on board next year, but I don't have anything to offer you as far as advice or even experience with that. Different podcast players for your website. That's something that you want to have. There's some free options, and there's some really cool premium features that you can get as well. I'll be talking about those. And then if we have time, we'll talk about different podcasting courses, different podcasting membership sites. Do you want to join Podcasters Paradise or School of Podcasting? What are the benefits? If we have the time, we'll get into that, as well as maybe some Facebook groups as well. I'll be doing a lot of screen sharing here. There's a couple ways you can get a hold of me, though, even when I'm doing the screen sharing. One, you can go to my website, which is stevestewart.me. Let's point to it correctly, stevestewart.me. And you'll see a little green tab in the bottom right-hand corner. That you click on that, you can then send me a message, and I'll be listening for the note and be able to answer your questions almost immediately. The other place is if you're at the Google Plus page. Obviously, if you're in the chat room, that is somewhere that I would love to see some interaction, and let me know if you have any questions. All right. So you're a blogger, you want to be a podcaster. You've got your recording ready to go. First thing we've got to do is label the file. So let me go ahead and get into the screen share here. And this is going to be a little messy at first, okay? I'm going to show you the free way to label your podcast. All right, so this is iTunes. I'm going to go into the, actually what's going to happen is you're going to take your file that you've already recorded, you've already produced it. Maybe it was Audition, maybe it was in Audacity, maybe it was GarageBand, but you're going to take that and you're going to drag it into iTunes. Again, this is just the way I do it. You could do it any other number of ways, but this is the way I do it. And if it's in iTunes, it's going to show up as a music file because it doesn't yet know that it's a podcast, but that's okay. We're just going to tag it and we're going to go into get info. Now I'm using a Mac, so iTunes on a Mac is slightly different than on a PC, but this same type of feature is available in both versions. So song name is actually your show title, the episode title. So right now this is a very archaic description of a file that I've got. So we're going to talk about, let's see, this is an episode I'm recording for my future podcast, and these are the 4 myths that can ruin your retirement. I'm going to give you another option that's a lot faster in a little bit, by the way. And then artist would be whatever you want to call yourself or your name. Album could be, okay, so like Money Plan SOS Podcast, that's what my show used to be called. I'll go ahead and call that now. You can do album artist, you can do composer, grouping, all that. Genre will not matter at this point. Year, I do include that. Track number, I do like making that the episode number. I wouldn't put number 4 of a certain number. I would put number 4, just that's it. And then if you want, you can put comments in here. I like to put a very brief description of the show notes. I also put those here in the lyrics. I'm not showing you anything right now because I haven't actually written them. And then the artwork, you can click on there and you could add artwork. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to real quickly go into my files here, and let's just go and pick out one of the old, this is an old piece of artwork that I used to use, and that is now included in the file. Once you've got that labeled, then this MP3 is ready to go and get put up onto a web server somewhere. So that is one way to do it. Another way to label your files is to use a program called ID3 Editor. And let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to open up that file with ID3 Editor. This gives you, I've already labeled this, so that's why you see everything already there. But this gives you even more control, and it gives you some nice shortcuts. For example, I've got the track number, I've got the description, artist, album, but I can also click on this there's just a little tiny triangle underneath each one of these boxes, and it kind of pre-populates from the previous items that you've used. So I can just go through here real quick, and I can just, I can hit a whole bunch of these numbers, and there you go. It's all filled in. That way you don't have to scroll here like this. The genre, I could scroll through a whole list of things, or since I've used it before, I can put it under investing and then hit update. Again, you can add pictures, lyrics. There's other options to fill in as well. That's pretty much it. So you have a little more control. And that, again, is called ID3 Editor. I think it's from a company called PA Soft. I'll definitely put a link to this type of thing in the show notes, which will accompany this video on my website. The replay will be available at stevestewart.me, and that'll be in the Audacity webinars section. You can always find more information about my webinars with other podcast, we'll call them luminaries, but they're really podcast experts, which you'll be able to find that at stevestewart.me/Audacity. So that was one thing that I always like to do, is show people how to, complete. Let me do that again. Let me show you. complete all this information, because right here in the comments and definitely in the lyrics, you want to include things like, links to your show notes, or how people can contact you, or I've even put in, links to affiliates. SteveStewart.me/YNAB is how you can get 10% off a YNAB. You can actually announce that in your show. That's a pretty link, which directs people right to, YNAB. It applies a discount. I get a referral fee. You can do all that kind of stuff inside of your MP3. And it helps with the SEO, because obviously you want to have, 4 myths that can ruin your retirement. There's a lot of good words in there. And if you're a blogger, you already know about that. So we've got our file updated. Now let me take us to media hosting. Now there's a couple sites that let me get it here. A couple of sites that offer media hosting. You know what website hosting is? Well, website hosting is where, your text lives, where your website is alive. Well, if you start putting rich media, and rich media is audio files, video files, you start putting that on your website, if a bunch of people come to your website at the same time, it could overload the server, especially if you're on shared hosting, and that could crash your server. You don't want that. If you take that heavy weight, the big data, like videos and audio, which a podcast is audio, and if you use a service like Blueberry, again, it's Blubrry, or libsyn, Libsyn, which is stands for libsyn, liberated syndication, then they do all the heavy lifting for you. And if your website does go down, if you're using the RSS feed that they provide, then you don't have to worry about, if your website goes down. Your podcast is still alive there. So that's an added bonus to using an outside service, is to use their RSS feed. Doesn't change anything on your website. It just says if somebody wants to listen to my podcast and they want to subscribe to it, the RSS feed is fill in the blank. I'm going to show you Libsyn because that's what I've been using. I'm already logged in. This is the dashboard. And what we have here is a bunch of different options of what you can do. The dashboard is obviously where you're looking at here. It's just a real quick snapshot. Not a whole lot here for you to see. That's obviously downloads to my podcast, which I've retired recently. Content, here's where you add a new episode. And if we'll go ahead and do that real quick, you'll see this is where I click on add a media file. I can upload from my hard drive, and it would be this one here, which I'm not going to do right now. Title, description. You can upload episode level artwork, not show level. Show level is different. Think of The Walking Dead. It is a show, but during the season they have different episodes. You could have a different piece of artwork for each one of the episodes, but the show artwork is always the same. It doesn't matter if you've got 10 or 50 episodes, your show artwork is going to be, your master artwork. You could always just leave that. But if you wanted to put, a different image for each episode, you could do that, and you could, show it here. You can give it a category, do all this stuff. I'm not going to go through all that, but I will show you this little tab here, schedule, release, and expiration. So you can actually schedule the release of the post. So if you've got an episode recorded and you want it to come out in 2 days, you can set the release date, or you can actually break it out. There's all these different destinations where your podcast can go live. I currently still have, it'll be going away, but I currently still have an Android app and an iPhone app. So if I wanted to, I could have my podcast come out a day early for people who are using my app. That's very cool. There's the podcast RSS feed, is where it's just like your RSS feed for your blog, where if you release a blog post, the RSS feed is updated, and now anybody who's subscribed to your RSS feed will be able to see it. The podcast RSS feed works the same way. And that's what you would provide the different listing services like Stitcher and iTunes. And I'll show you where to get that in just a moment. And then once you and you can set all these things for different dates and times. That's what's really cool about this scheduling release expiration option with Libsyn. I'm going to give you a coupon code. If you're interested in using Libsyn for your media hosting, you want to get a pen out and write this down or jot it down in a notepad somewhere. You'll get the first month for free when signing up with Libsyn if you use the code SOP free. SOP free. That'll give you that first month for free. Once you're done setting all this stuff the way you want it, if the episode is up, it's already, if it's uploaded, which I haven't done that here, I'm just practicing. Once you're all set, you hit publish, and then it either releases it or it schedules it to be released at the time that you've dictated here. I'm going to cancel this. Now, I will show you a previously published episode, because this is all the information from the 200th episode of the Money Plan SOS podcast, recorded live at FinCon. And this is what it looks like when it's been released. This is the direct download URL. You'll need to remember that. I'm going to talk about that again in a little bit when we talk about podcast players. And with Libsyn, they also give the option to embed a player on your site. So you could actually have nothing, no plugins, no special players installed on your website, and you could actually get the embed code for this player. I could hit play and stop. There's the volume control, and there's a progress bar, which you can't see right now, but this code that I've highlighted, this is the embed code, which you can embed into the text options on a blog post, and then it will put a player right on your website. That's very cool. Now, another thing that actually I kind of skipped over something that would be very helpful if you did want to create artwork, episode level artwork, which let me show you that. Here, take a look at this. This is episode level artwork. I made that very special just for that episode. That's not my show's artwork. That's the episode level artwork. Let me show you another one. Sorry, I'm scrolling around all over the place. This is one that I released just a couple weeks prior, and you'll see it's got different artwork. Here's my guest. Here's my show artwork, and this whole thing is different. So that'll actually show up in certain places, certain players. You won't see it through iTunes, but it's there for other reasons, and it's pretty neat. There's a couple of really cool ways you can create episode level artwork, and I'll just go through this very briefly. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Canva. With Canva, you can create templates. Like here's the one I was just showing you. You can create templates. You can upload your own bits and pieces of artwork. You can use the things that they've got available to you. Let me go up here and see. So you've got shapes that you can, import different shapes. You can change the shapes, different sizes. You can change the colors. I'm just going to jump around and do a whole bunch of weird stuff here. You can change the transparency, so it's kind of see-through. So it's kind of neat. So Canva is very, very helpful with that. But if you want to do something that's even more powerful, and I like this, there's a website called Relay That. That's RELAYTHAT.com. Once you log in, you've got all these options to the left for different size, artwork. Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook. You got Facebook Wide and you got Facebook Square. Instagram, you've got one that will specifically reduce the text to being less than 20% so you can use it for a Facebook ad. And let's just go into this one real quick. I hit this little wrench. It opens up all these options here. I can turn them on or off with a little toggle bar. For instance, watch the big title on the left, from blogger to podcaster. If I toggle that off, it's gone. Then I've got the borders, the overlays. I can turn those on or off. I can change the portrait by importing a different picture. Let's just go ahead and do that real quick. All right, so this is a different picture than what I've had in there. Whoops. I don't know why it didn't pick it up, but we're going to do it again. There it is. You can change the font, the color, and there's just a bunch of neat things. But here's where the real power is. Let's say I want to do not just a, like this is a YouTube size. This is a 1280 by 720, as you see indicated there. but maybe I want to do a Twitter one, a Facebook one, a web banner one. If I click on the little icon, I don't know if you can tell what that is, but it looks like those Russian, I don't know what you call them, where you put one inside of another, inside of another, inside of another. Then it opens up a bunch of the other ones that are related. And that's what you've got here. So I've got, this is the website banner, this is the Facebook one, this is the Twitter one, and you just download those and use them as your artwork. That again is at relaythat.com. If you want to help support this show or support me, I've got a special link I can send you, and that is an affiliate link. But if you just want to go to relaythat.com, that's a really cool service. So that is a paid for service where Canva is free, and they have a premium service, which will do some of the similar things that I was just talking about with Relay That, doing the different sizing, but holding the same, the same format, the same, graphic structure, those types of things. All right, moving on. So we've got our podcast, we've got our artwork, we've tagged the files, we've uploaded them to our media hosting service. The next thing to do, if you're just starting a podcast, is you need to tell people what where your podcast is. We need to get it listed. All right. So with Libsyn, you need to get your RSS feed. So we're going to go to settings, edit show settings. Nope, that's not the one I want. Excuse me. We're going to go to destinations. Pardon me. Log in, go to destinations, just destinations, not add new. And right here is a podcast RSS feed, which means anything you upload and release to your podcast RSS feed, that's the feed that is going to be reviewed. It's going to be pinged by the different services that you announce it. So you'll want to copy and paste that somewhere, put it on a text document, put it in Evernote, something like that. So that is my RSS feed for, that is actually my old show. It's very easy to tell iTunes where your RSS feed. You just go into iTunes, go to the iTunes store. There we go. And then you'll see right here on the right-hand side, submit a podcast. You click on that, paste in your podcast feed URL. That's what I just showed you. And then hit continue. It's going to take them 24, more likely 48 to 72 hours to review the feed, make sure that it's valid, make sure it's good, and also to do a quick overview of what is in your RSS feed. So you always want to have at least one episode released or uploaded to Libsyn or Blueberry or wherever you host it, for them to be able to see that the RSS feed actually works. And then they'll email you to tell you that it's been accepted. That's pretty much it. As far as Stitcher, Stitcher.com is the second place that a lot of people want to go and listen to their show or listen to podcasts. I forgot to pull up the link. You usually just go to the FAQ. It's going to tell you right there. How do I list? Okay. Why should I? Well, I'll put a link in the show notes, but apologize for not thinking about getting that up right away. You can always email Stitcher. They do monitor their email. They do get back to you, although it does take a little bit of time for them to get to you. Oh, here it is. Visit the sign up form, which you'll then find at stitcher.com/content-providers.php. Stitcher.com/content-providers.php. And that's where you can then, you just fill out the information right here. Check the terms of service, use the CAPTCHA, agree to the terms of service, hit continue, all that. And you'll definitely want to list with Stitcher. Now, just so you know, there are a lot of podcast apps or podcatchers that they use iTunes API to pull your show and put it into their listing. So there's a lot of places you'll never even have to contact, you'll never have to touch, you never have to email. It's just going to get listed there because a lot of people do pull from the iTunes API. That's very nice and helpful. If you ever want to know other directories that you want to get into, then email me, steve@stevestewart.me, and then I'll get you a link to a place that has a list of about 100 different places that you'll want to, or you could get your show listed in iTunes. In fact, here, let's just show you what. Let's see. Let's go to Radical Personal Finance. This is Radical Personal, and you can see right here, Joshua Sheets podcast. There's a whole listing of them here. Oh, I see JD Roth was on the other day. And there's just hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, especially with Joshua, hours of his show. But yeah, iTunes is the big daddy right now. You definitely want to be listed on iTunes. Now, you've got your show recorded, you've got it tagged, you've got artwork in there, you've uploaded it to a media host. You could upload it to your website, but I really wouldn't do that. Now what you want to do is go and get a player on your website. There's a couple of free versions and there's a couple of premium versions. I'm going to talk to you about definitely plugins for WordPress websites. I use a couple different players actually on stevestewart.me. I'm just crazy about podcasting that way. So what I did was I bought Pat Flynn's Smart Podcast Player. That's this bar right here. I'm kind of not crazy about it, except that it's very cool. So I'm kind of torn between the two. I'm not going to go through and show you how to set it up. Actually, I can point you to a webinar that I did with Hanny Mora. He created a podcast player that I'm going to show you in a minute. And anyway, the features are very cool. And we walk through the different podcast players and their settings and their options in that webinar. I'll show you in just a moment. But you can play it from the website. You can download it. You can share. You can see my share buttons there. You can change the play speed. It's all right there. And you can see where my cursor is. There's a little white line. That's kind of like, a track button. It's like where I would place my cursor if I wanted to read something more, or if I want to listen to a specific point inside the podcast, I just click on that. No problem. To make it easy for people to see and understand this player, I created this image above with the arrows that point down at it. You don't have to do that. I just found that was very helpful for my audience. Now, that's just one of them. I also use this one right here. This is Hanny Mora's Simple Podcast Press. And you can see there's a link right here. So if you want to find out, well, I'm going to give you a link to show where you can learn more about this. But I'm not even using half of the features that this thing offers. You can see all these clickable buttons. So I can subscribe in iTunes from here, Stitcher. I can go and leave a review. I can clamor it. That's a whole different discussion. You can download my iPhone or my Android app by clicking these buttons. Here's the play button for the podcast. So, it's a very simple player. It has a lot of simple features, but it also comes with a lot of cool features in the back end that I won't even get into. Again, you'll want to go and check out the webinar I did with Hanny Mora. And the way you find that is you go to stevestewart.me/HANI, Hanny, HANI. That'll take you to this page right here. This is a copy of the webinar that we did together. It was a long one, but it was well worth it. And there's points inside of the webinar where we talk about, he actually walks us through the back end of different plugins. Let's see if I can find it. I'm trying to find a good one. Anyway, you definitely want to check it out. We're going to get in this webinar. We talk about Pat Flynn's Smart Podcast Player. We show you the back end of that. We talk about Hanny's plugin, which has morphed into something even bigger than when we recorded this a couple months ago. And then also John Dennis's Procaster player, which is kind of neat. But you don't even need those, because you could do something like this. Let me get you to, if you have WordPress, you can just download the free PowerPress plugin, which includes a simple podcast play button right there. And they actually do offer a couple different versions of it, so you can give it a little bit of a different look. It's not really customizable, but there's different size and image ones. Gives the option to play in a new window, download. They even have subscribe buttons for your RSS feed and iTunes and stuff like that. So that's just a very simple player that it's just a free plugin called PowerPress, and it's in the WordPress repository. I've been using that for years. I probably used it for 3 years exclusively on MoneyPlan SOS until some of these premium features came out with Hanny Mora's Simple Podcast Press and Pat Flynn's Smart Podcast Player. Whew, that's a lot, isn't it? Do we need to take a break? I'm looking to see if we have any questions. I don't have any yet. You feel free, if you have any questions, you want to talk about anything specific that has to do with your podcast. Once you've got it recorded, what's next? Then what you want to do is leave a comment in the chat on the Google Plus page, or feel free to hit that little green button on my website at stevestewart.me, and you can click on that and send me a direct message through that little, it's a very cool widget. Use it, and I can tell you what that widget is, and you can install that on your own website as well. All right, so let's get back to what we were talking about. One thing that that a lot of podcasters want to know about are different types of Skype recorders. We're going to get into the production side to make it easy for you. We'll talk about that real quick. There's a lot of different audio recorders out there for Skype. And let me think here. Yeah, let's do this. I'm going to go to podcastfasttrack.com/Skype recording. And in this episode 17, he lists a bunch of them. And he gives you a little bit of a breakdown on each as well. I'll tell you what mine is. Ecamm's call recorder for Skype, because it also records video, and it allows you to split the tracks, or it allows you to split the video as well, side by side. There's a lot of really cool things that it comes with, and it's about 30 or 40 bucks for Mac. It's only for Mac right now, but if you're on a Windows machine, there's all kinds of other versions, other options as well. So it's at podcastfasttrack.com, episode 17 of his podcast. And he actually has a podcast where he walks through. In fact, you can see he's got a nice little player right here. And I'm not sure what player that is, but that's kind of neat. Another tip that I'm gonna sell you my stuff here. If you go to stevestewart.me/audacity, what you're going to find is my course that helps podcasters edit their show faster. I have a free course. A lot of you signed up and you've already got access to this. 10 free videos to show you how to use Audacity to record. Basically it walks you through. Go here to install it, open it up, hit record, hit stop, save it, export it, blah. A lot of that stuff is already in there in the first 10 free videos. And then I have a course, it's only $50, that gets you in to do more things, which I'm going to show you the tips and tricks that I use and have been using to edit faster. There's an art to editing, and if you just know some of the keyboard shortcuts, some of the tricks that I've been using for years, it's going to save you a lot of time. Or maybe you're not editing at all. Trust me when I tell you, when you edit your show to make it better for your listener, it shows. It definitely shows. And editing is really important to give it that professional polish that nobody's really noticed except you. but they're going to know it. They're going to know that it's a very, very well-produced show. And so anyway, you can go in here, check that out. Ask me any questions if you want. And that is at stevestewart.me/audacity. Now, what about podcasting groups? Well, if you go to me/paradise, that will take you to the Podcasters Paradise group. Yeah, I've been a member of Podcasters Paradise for, well, when it was only $300 lifetime fee. He always, John Lee Dumas, he's been very successful in the podcasting space. He has a lot of video tutorials. And I'll tell you what, the most important thing, actually the most beneficial thing that I can tell you about that, it's not even the course, really. I mean, there's going to be a lot of stuff that it would definitely be helpful. It's this right here, this private Facebook group. 2,200 members. Hey, look, there's Lauren Grootman and James Kinson. Oh, and Hanny Mora. And there's Craig Carpenter, the guy who created Relay That. And there's Jeff Brown from Read to Lead podcast. You know, these are all people who took this very seriously, and it's a big investment. But I'll tell you what, this community is powerful. So if you want to get in on that, go to stevestewart.me/paradise and sign up for one of the webinars. See if it's really something that you're looking for. Another one that you might want to consider is this guy's amazing. Dave Jackson over at the School of Podcasting. He's been podcasting for over 10 years. He knows what's going on. You can sign in for his School of Podcasting. He's also got tutorials on all kinds of stuff. And it's a monthly fee, but the membership fee is very, very inexpensive compared to Podcasters Paradise. In fact, I'm looking to see what the price is now. You get it for $129, and I forget what the monthly fee is. Maybe he's changed that too. I've been a member for so long, I don't even remember. That also has a good Facebook community, and he invites you to other extra things like what he calls, I forget what he calls it, but it's like an office hours, private webinars. You get one-on-one coaching with him that way. That's very powerful. So schoolofpodcasting.com, and you can click on join to be able to get into his course there. As far as Facebook groups, I mean, you could really find a bunch of them on your own. But if you just type in podcast, there's podcast community. There's podcast movement, which is the basically this is the FinCon of podcasting. In fact, Podcast Movement is a conference that was based on the same model that PT put together for FinCon, and it's been very successful. Podcasters Hangout, that's actually a closed group, but you can request to get into that one. That one's fairly easy to get into. Those membership sites and not membership sites, but group sites are really helpful if you've got a specific question, maybe an issue. You want to get feedback, like right here, we've got someone who's asking about logos. Hey, here's my podcast. You know, what do you think of these logos? And there's always great feedback there as well. A service that I found very helpful, my podcast reviews. One thing that you'll find out once you started podcasting, it's very difficult to see all of your reviews from iTunes because not all of your reviews show up in iTunes when you're signed in. Let me show an example. Here's the ratings and reviews for Joshua Sheets' podcast. He's got 144 customer reviews. Now, I can read them in this order. I can see most helpful, most favorable, most critical, most recent. But that's only for the reviews that are in the iTunes store from the country that I'm logged into, which is the United States. This doesn't show me the ones from Canada. It doesn't show me the ones from England. Well, my podcast reviews allows you to see all of your podcast reviews from all different countries. And you can actually sign up to get your podcast reviews for free. One podcast show. If you have one show, I've got 2 shows, but if you've got one show, you can list that one, and he'll send you an email with all of your new reviews once a month. Then he's got premium versions that will send them to you more often or give you more shows. Very, very great service. And you can see the pricing here as well. Very cool stuff. We're getting late here. I want to go ahead and just leave you with that because there's so much that you can learn about podcasting, and it doesn't all come to you at once. Guaranteed, I didn't learn all this stuff in just a matter of weeks. How much of it do you really need to consider? How much of it do you really have to focus on? Well, it's up to you. You have to decide how much time and energy you want to commit to something. But over time, you get to learn, hey, my podcast reviews is cool, or maybe I need to join this membership. The important thing is get your idea down, give it a name, start recording content, produce it into a file that you can upload to the internet, and then let's get you set up. I hope that this was helpful. I haven't got any questions, so I'm going to just assume that I answered everything that you ever wanted to know about podcasting. This replay will be available at this website here, stevestewart.me/Audacity, and click on webinars, Audacity webinars in the top of the website bar. That's where I have a list of all the webinars that I've had, and I've got a couple of them that are still available there as well. But you can click on a link and it'll take you to a page where you can watch the webinar over again. But I do have within my course every single webinar that I've done with Daniel J. Lewis from the Audacity podcast, Dave Jackson from School of Podcasting, Henny Moore we talked about, Jeff Brown from Read to Lead podcast. He talks about how to really conduct an excellent interview, and he really taught me some really cool stuff in there. All those webinars are inside of my course, the Audacity Workshop. And so if you want to learn how to edit a little bit more with a free program called Audacity, which works on PCs and Macs, it's rock solid. It's been around since before podcasting. Then go check it out. And if you want to get these webinars as well, all those webinars are stored inside of the Audacity Workshop, the $50 course. That's less than 3 months worth of Audition. Because if Audition, it's minimum of $20 a month. Why rent your software when you can use Audacity, learn how to use it efficiently, and you get into the membership of my course, you learn the tips and tricks, you just pay for it once, and that's it. You never have to pay again. All right, if you guys have any questions, come visit me at stevestewart.me/Audacity. My email is steve@stevestewart.me. And of course, you can always find me in Facebook or on Twitter. I just love to be able to chat with you there as well. So go check out my website. Go check out the course that I have available. Ask me any questions. If I can be of any help to you at all, please let me know. Thanks.